In spring of 2022, a man named George Clooney had started work on directing a film called Boys in the Boat. A film that was based off of a book that was based off of a true story that's about the journey of 9 young rowers who go and qualify to the Olympics to beat the Germans. George Clooney saw the great story and decided to tell the story to a broader and more general audience. In December of 2023, the film finally came out. But this wasn't the only significant thing with spring of 2022. Around this time, another individual has gotten interested in rowing. This man is none other than me. That's right, the cat's out of the bag. One of the two channel members here row. Since I row, I decided to take it upon myself to review the rowing film. Although I do row, I had no expectations. George Clooney had never made a film about sports, let alone made a film about rowing. So this wasn't exactly in his element. But needless to say, even though he was out of his element, I have to ask myself, did he do a good job? Yes and no. He did good in some elements and bad in others. The plot was fine, but the characters weren't fleshed out. But overall, I did like the film. I'm not just saying that because I'm a rower. So join me today, and I will explain why I would recommend this to someone regardless of rowing experience. Also, if you find yourself agreeing with what you hear from this channel, please consider liking and or subscribing. It'd be really helpful. Also, I'm sorry for awkward space in between uploads. I've been sick. So, yeah. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Before I explain why I liked the film, I feel it's necessary to say what I didn't like. After all, the title of this video says that it is imperfect. To start things off, I hated the pacing of the film. So, in case you don't know me, I'm very impatient. I find it hard to keep my focus on something for longer than half an hour. And the human attention span is very short. The average human attention span is 10 minutes. So, unless the pacing is fast, the average person will lose interest. The problem with The Boys in the Boat is that even though I enjoy fast-paced stuff, and that's one of the reasons why Cross the Spider-Verse worked for me, this is just too fast. It's fast pacing makes it so that it just brushes over important parts of the film that needs work. I also dislike the lack of famous actors in this film. For me, the sign of famous actors means famous people actually see potential. This is more of a minor problem because you don't need famous actors as long as the less famous people are held to a certain standard. Another thing I dislike is that this is based off of a book. This means that most of the writing is done already, which could be a good thing. If most of the writing is already done, then the job of the movie writer is just improve where the book did badly. Sadly though, it didn't do that much of this. This probably came from a budget issue, because the concept of this film isn't going to raise much money. Another thing I disliked about this is the lack of character development and depth. Like I said in the last paragraph, the films that are based off of books should try to improve where the book didn't. This is the most important area to improve in. Character development and themes are very important for a story. A perfect example of this situation would be why all the rowers are rowing. You don't really know why. For most of them, as far as you know, they're only there because of serious money issues. They're all broke. Another character motivation that needs to be touched upon a little more is the man from California, the coach from that team. He gives Washington's team the rest of the money they need in order to leave for the Olympics, but the film never decides to give a good reason why. All we get is a throwaway line where he states that Washington's team is the only team that deserves the cut. They also don't give a good reason for why Joe decides to quit the team. He quits the team for a short period of time. Now that that's out of the way, I do want to emphasize to you that I actually enjoyed this film, and now we're going to talk about the themes I believe this film has. One of the themes that it seems to have is to never give up, no matter how bad things seem to be. For example, when the stroke gets sick, even though he's sick, he still pushes his weight through the boat, even on the big day. And this when he does push his weight, when he pulls his load, this gives them the victory. Another theme is not to participate in things you do not is to not participate in things you don't care about. This is apparent when Joe temporarily quits the team. He says that he doesn't care, so the captain decides that it's in his best interest of the entire team to remove him, because if you don't care about what you do, there's no point in doing it. There are a good number of decent characters in the film, starting off with the main character, Joe. I'm not gonna lie, of all the trailers did not give me any faith in this character. All the trailers showed bland footage. I thought that would be the entirety of his character throughout the film, but luckily the trailer showed the worst of the worst. Apparently, the actor for Joe is actually gave quite a remarkable performance. I could easily see him having a future in acting. Joe is someone who starts off the film as wanting to join rowing because it will pay off his tuition. But by the end of the film, he's there so he can row with the friends he cares about. This character has achieved somewhat of a character arc. This character also does the hardest thing of all time. He talks to a woman. Speaking of women, Joyce is a character that mainly acts as Joe's girlfriend. That's pretty much her defining trait. The film does try to explore her a bit, but it always focuses on Joe or the coach the most. I think the film could have done a better job exploring her roots. We never get to learn much about her parents. I don't even know if she has parents that are alive. And when you think about it, she probably doesn't. It would make sense if she's an orphan when you look at some of the deranged thoughts she has. But for example, she thinks it's a good idea to bring a boy, Joe, into her dorm room, which is in a girls-only school, which is for a girls-only zone. That's not the problem. The problem is she thinks that it's a safe action to jump out of a window that is multiple stories high. Joe shouldn't have his knees anymore. He shouldn't be able to row after this deranged action. She also acts really depressed throughout the entire film. When she hears that Joe made the team, instead of congratulating him, like she should, she instead focuses on the idea that Joe will forget her. The character is complicated, but it still could have a little more depth than the film chooses to give. The coach is also something of a character. He represents the voice of knowledge and reasoning that will govern Joe's future. He tries to inspire the rowers, but he doesn't want to get them too cocky. But he can't do it alone. In order to get Joe inspired and some of the other boat mates, he needs the help of George Pocock. George Pocock represents the caring figure. George wants to see Joe succeed, so he connects him on an emotional level. Uses the building of the racing shell as an opportunity to bond with him. Now, let's address the question that I'm sure most of you have been asking yourselves, or are here to have answered. Does this film represent rowing in a good way? Yes, it does. It shows how to make good form and also shows how to cox, kinda. It shows how troubling it is to get sick before a big day. It shows how this film acknowledges that rowing is much harder than most sports because it has a heavy demand on the body and the mind in order to obtain success. It also shows how little sleep you get as a rower. And as a fellow rower, I feel acknowledged. I hope this film gets a few more people to join rowing. Rowing is one of the most underlooked sports, and it's one of the best sports of all. And it's also one of the best sports of all time. If you want a film that's about rowing, this film will tell you what it's like. Granted, it's not exactly the same experience, considering that this film takes place about a century before present day, but nevertheless, it still does a good job. It doesn't do it perfectly, and there are some areas that could be built upon a lot more, but that still doesn't take away from the fact it did a good job. I give this film a rating of 8 out of 10. For okay characters, good rowing, and great leading actors, and some good themes. I think the themes of this film are a little less obvious. I think they could have builded that a little more. And if you want to figure out what the themes are, then you're going to have to think about it a little more than other films. I suggest this film if you row or you enjoy seeing films about real events. Also recommend not watching this film with the book in mind, because if you expect it to be as good as the book, then you'll be very disappointed. I suggest that you keep your expectations low. I still think this film is great, but it has a room for improvement, like the title of this video suggests. Like I said, this film is imperfect greatness. I don't think this film is for people who would focus on arcs and themes. If you are that type of person, and there are plenty of videos on this channel where I review films that would fit your needs. Either way, this film gets a thumbs up. I didn't expect it to be this good. I do think it could have been better, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that this is an okay film. I think the best way to describe this film is that it's good, but it is not great. It's imperfect greatness, like I said before in the title, and like I've said many times throughout this video. Well, if you enjoyed this video, then consider liking this video. And if you see yourself agreeing with many of the things I say a lot of the time, and find yourself constantly watching my videos, then please subscribe. Why not? After all, you constantly see yourself coming to this channel, so just easier way of getting here. And consider commenting down below suggestions for what to review next. If we appreciate the suggestion, then we might consider following through with it one day. Also, please share this video with friends or family. Spreading the word of this channel's existence is really helpful. We really need anything to jumpstart this channel. Anyways, thank you and goodbye for now.